enough of that noise.
Time for the B-roll, boys!
What's up, guys? Welcome back to B-roll, boys. I'm Justin.
What up? I'm Harlan.
What's up? I'm Wes.
And today we are doing 2013's After Earth from M. Night Shyamalan.
Justin, this is your favorite movie.
I've seen this probably more times than I should have.
Shyamalan? What? Shyamalan?
Yes, him.
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
So, Justin, I hear that you paid to see this movie?
Yeah, I
How do you
saw
feel
this in
about that?
theaters. I knew nothing about it. I had gone through a breakup that day, and my friends wanted to see this. And they didn't even want to see this at the movie theater I worked at, so I couldn't see it free. I had to go to AMC and pay like a peasant. And I remember like halfway through looking at my friend, and I was like, this is garbage. This is really bad.
Hell yeah.
I agree. Technically, I paid for it too. For this review, I rented it on Amazon because it was just the fastest thing to do, and I regretted it immediately.
I mean, I watched the Blu-ray of it this time around.
You know what? I'm actually gonna drop a hot take right here.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't think this movie is terrible. Like, it's bad. Don't get me wrong, but I don't hate this movie.
You're only saying that because we just watched Jupiter Ascending. That's the only reason.
Maybe. Yeah, this was I think this is a lot better than Jupiter Ascending. Like,
sure.
I can tell you what happened, and I can explain the plot to you, and they weren't just cramming bullshit down my throat at every
That's
turn.
typically a good way for a movie to be.
Yeah.
It's a lot more palatable. Like, I mean, I watched this by myself, and I was laughing the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing this remotely because of the coronavirus scare, so it's probably going to be remote for the foreseeable future. I mean, who knows? But that's not going to stop us from watching shitty movies and
Hell no,
bashing
it
on
does.
them.
Can't keep the boys down.
The B-roll boys.
So, yeah.
But enough of that noise.
I didn't hate this movie. I don't think there's anything to really... well, I shouldn't say that there's nothing to hate about it.
Yeah, you better not say that.
I am personally not super offended by this movie. It's
I'm
definitely...
offended by the lead.
Yes. Well, that's the worst part. But I think this movie definitely has, the seeds of a good movie in there. Like, this movie totally has potential, and like a different cast could have made it work, and a different director could have made it work.
I think just a different director could have made it work, because, I mean, Will Smith has made pretty great movies.
Well, apparently Will Smith was like the one directing Jaden the whole time, so
Didn't he
Oof.
write it?
I believe
Or no,
he did.
he conceived the story. I don't know if he wrote the script, but he definitely, like, conceptualized the plot. And he was
Yeah,
like, I
so-
want to make a thing with me and my son.
I guess that's a good point to drop this piece of trivia. Apparently, his idea was originally for the story to be about just a father and son on a camping trip. And to me, that sounds like it would have been a lot better. Like, because a lot of my problems with this movie are, like, the logistics. I'm like, why does this work like that? Like, why would they design it like this? That's stupid. Like, that's impractical. And I think, like, it could have been a lot better if they just kept it simple. And it was just, like, they are driving in a car, they crash, and then Jaden has to go get help. I think that would have been a lot easier to make work.
So this was Johnson's family vacation. And then it turned into After Earth.
Yeah, I don't know what to
Okay.
make of that.
I mean, the conventions of this movie follow, like, a video game, kind of.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah,
like,
they
the
totally
whole
do.
beginning is like the 30-minute, like, cinematic Metal Gear Solid bullshit. And then he puts you in the tutorial, like, right after that.
Yeah, you've got your inventory, you've got your combat limitations, you've got the parameters of the world, and there's a lot of... I hate when movies establish, like, they go out of their way to establish these extravagant worlds, which it's not an extravagant world, it's Earth, but... And then they drop all these rules. Like, at the beginning, or when Jaden first gets off the Smith, he gets off the Smith, he gets off the ship, and he says, oh, my body feels heavier, I think gravity is heavier on Earth, and then they never touch that again.
Yeah, they don't do anything with it.
Like,
He
never
immediately climbs
struggling.
up a mountain.
Yeah, I mean, later he's climbing a mountain, he's jumping off walls and doing shit. I'm like, shouldn't it be harder for you to do that? Like,
Yeah,
if anything, he's acting like there's less gravity because he does these pretty high jumps.
Yeah, he skydives. Like,
Yeah,
if he's an iron weight, then he's not flying around with this hawk.
yeah. Do you think that maybe it was intentional for this to feel kind of like sequenced like a video game? Because I did also read that Will Smith like planned for there to be like an extended universe that like connects to video games based off this. Like he wanted it to be a franchise. He wanted there to be books and video games and I think comics and shit. Yeah. Didn't work out.
Like you can kind of tell that's what they were going for, but what differentiates this between or this and Jupiter Ascending is that at least it's somewhat cohesive because it's just not trying to jam all that shit on you.
Totally. It's much more streamlined, you know?
Yeah.
It's a contained story. Like, Jupiter Ascending is very much making its point of, we want this to be able to branch out into different things, and this is a fairly simple story. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I could follow the entire thing, and I can recite... I mean, again, I've seen this multiple times, unfortunately. But I can recite the basic beats of the plot. Now, I will say... the two things that I hate about this the most are, one, that is extremely boring because everybody is so subdued. Everybody is so low-key the entire time. I know that that's a choice. That's a decision. Kind of like how fear is a choice. But
We'll get to that.
but it's also just so unspecial in how predictable it is. Like, you could see every plot point coming a mile away. Like, what fucking mouth-breathing idiot was watching this and didn't think that Jaden was gonna ghost by the end?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
really? Come on.
It's very by the numbers, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. Like, lots of movies are you know, pretty standard, you know, they hit their story beats. But, of course, you know, that's not helping it either.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
I mean, because there's nothing else that really separates this. Okay, so oh wait, I was looking at the wrong notes there. So we start off, and we've got Jaden Smith explaining in his extremely awkward puberty voice.
I've heard stories of Earth.
I've heard stories of Earth.
Okay, I'm sorry. Before we get into that, can I say,
Go for it.
My very first note that I wrote down is... I thought it was a trailer when the movie started. Did you guys think that at all? Like,
I could totally see that as like a teaser at the beginning.
Yeah, like
Sure.
I pulled this up on Fandango, and like I thought I accidentally pressed play trailer instead, and I like rewound it, and I like went back, and I was like, no, that's the movie. That's a really fucking weird way to open the movie.
And what's even funnier about that is when it like shows that for like 30 seconds before it pops up with the title screen. It's like setting it up for like, oh, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And then they get there in 20 minutes.
I hate when movies do that.
I clocked it. Well, usually it happens at like at the beginning of the third act, but no, it happens immediately.
Yeah.
But speaking of your first note, my first note is from the moment he opens his mouth, I want to die.
Yeah, so my second note is, does he have an Irish accent? Like, it's like a weird mix of Scottish and British, you know?
Yeah, like the opening monologue
area.
in the first paragraph, he switches between like a Midwestern and English and like a Southern accent. Every single line is different.
I was thinking like New Zealand. I got Jango Fett vibes from him.
It's like M. Night Shyamalan just vaguely told everybody separately. He's like, hey, go for like an accent nobody heard of, and that's all he said, and they were just like, I don't know how to do that, so they just like instinctively just like switched between a bunch of different things.
They hired a linguist to like invent a language because it's supposed to be 1,000 years in the future, and they had a linguist come in and kind of extrapolate what a standardized accent and dialect would sound like in 1,000 years.
They actually did that, or you're just speculating?
As far as I know, they actually did that.
Wow,
That's
that was a waste of money.
insane
So that's
to me.
cute. Again, it's like, why? Because it does just come off as like a bad British accent a lot of the times.
Yeah, it really just like draws attention to the way they're talking. Whereas like if they just spoke with like his normal accent, nobody would think anything of it.
It's like going between Train Spotting and fucking Peter Jackson. And it's so bad. I couldn't stop laughing through this whole thing. And when I first saw this in the theater, And that first line, that I've had stories of Earth, I was like, no, don't tell me that's Jaden's voice. Please don't fucking tell me this is some, like, omniscient narrator. I can't listen to this kid and his, like, cracking voice for an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, it's Jaden's voice, all right. And you're going to hear it for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, and I also I don't like the stock, like, news footage thing. It's like, we destroyed Earth, and we've just got, like, a bunch of, like, Katrina-type footage. I'm like, okay, man, fucking every dumbass movie does that. Who cares? Have a more interesting way. If you're going to have the framing device of, like, shit's fucked and we go back X amount of time in the past to establish that, then make that interesting. That in itself is not necessarily a bad trope.
Yeah.
But it is when there's nothing happening.
Yeah, there's no reason at all. Like, why? It's almost like, why even mention it? It's like, we destroyed Earth, and then shows like a couple explosions, but it never actually tells you what happened.
Yeah,
so who cares?
it's so shallow. It's like, you could have just as easily had Will Smith just, like, mention it in passing, and we would have got the same outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I find most of the family stuff to be fairly unnecessary. I think that this, not that I necessarily think that this would have been better, but if they had streamlined this, because it's, again, a very simple story, if you had just streamlined it onto, if Cypher Rage and Katai Rage are on the ship together, and then you could get some back, like, you could hear, oh, I failed my ranger training, I guess, and then, like, oh, he's got to prove himself to his father, and then the story kicks off from there. Okay, but, like, I don't need the family thing. I don't need the constant flashbacks. I don't need the implications of that. I don't care.
Especially when they go through it so lifelessly, because, like, what you said there, like, oh, I failed the Rangers or whatever. It's like Will Smith came in, he was immediately a dick, and then his wife 10 seconds later is like, hey, don't be a dick, and then he's no longer
he's a dick
dick.
For the whole movie.
Yeah, and you know, Will Smith
That's his character.
Will Smith is also a big part of, like, what makes this movie boring is, like, when he doesn't care, I'm like, why should I care? Like,
he's baked as fuck for all of this.
Yeah. And I do want to say, one of my later notes, I'm sure this has been said a million times. I haven't heard it, so excuse me. But Cypher Rage totally sounds like somebody's Sonic OC, doesn't it? It totally does, right?
Especially since OC Rage is spelled Raige.
Is it?
Like, I watched this with subtitles that came on, and I was like, oh.
Well, notice that too, and everybody pronounces their last name differently too. Like, someone said it like Raj, and the other one said it like Rage.
It's almost like no one can keep a consistent fictional accent.
That, or how to pronounce things, like, everything is just different.
Yeah,
so bizarre.
Should we get into the plot?
Start by, like, we have this other little framing. We've got the framing device of the aliens came after we destroyed the Earth.
Yeah, what's with that? Like, they, like, unleash... He says that they unleash the Ursa, and I'm like, wait, so the Ursa, sorry, are, like, the, like, attack dogs? So they're not even, like, the real enemy? I'm like...
Yeah, we never see the aliens at all.
Yeah, like, we don't even see them. We don't even see them at all. That's super weird to me.
We get no context to them, and by the way, Ursa is Latin for bear.
Yeah, so, Katai is Latin, or is Russian for China, I think. That's what I read.
That's amazing.
I read that on the IMDb.
I'm happy you read that.
Yeah.
I mean, and basically, these Ursas, this is one of the worst creature designs I've ever seen in something, because I don't know what I'm looking at. It kind of looks like it's like a spider, but again, it's supposed to look a little bit more like a bear, so it's kind of bulky.
And it also looks like the Cloverfield monster.
It's a super generic monster design. It's like, it's totally interchangeable with a lot of the creatures from Cloverfield. Mm-hmm. Not that they're bad. It's just like there's nothing memorable about the Ursa. They're just meh.
Yeah, I mean, it looks terrible. At first, I was like, oh, the CGI looks terrible, but the CGI is not horrendous in this movie. And again, maybe it's just coming off of watching Jupiter Ascending, where everything looked like shit. I thought this looked... It doesn't look necessarily good, but it looks passable.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I just determined, okay, it's more that the creature design itself is terrible.
Yeah.
And that's a deeper seed. What?
I should say, I think the CGI creatures look all right. The green screen looks pretty bad, though.
Yeah. I don't think it's
It's-
as atrocious as it could be as the last two things we've watched, but there were a couple times where I noticed it.
Agreed. Yeah, but I mean, like, especially like early on when they're like in that like airport type place, I guess, and they meet the dude who lost his leg. Yeah, it stuck out to me a lot there. Like it looked awful.
Speaking of, I guess crutches don't exist. It's like, stand me up.
Yeah, for all the other awesome futuristic shit they have, they forgot crutches.
They also forgot guns, because the only way to kill these Ursas, because they are able to smell your fear. They are able to smell the pheromones that you secrete when frightened. That does not include open wounds, as multiple examples cite, but we can smell fear.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Fear.
My very last note is, are the Ursa blind? Because like,
Though they are blind. He
they
says
are
they're blind.
So like, well, I mean like, sorry, I mean like, yeah, can they? Do they have other senses, and can they sense other things? Because like, otherwise, how the fuck do they navigate? Like, so let's assume that you know they can smell other shit. Like, yeah, why can't they smell open wounds? You know, like, how does it climb up a mountain if it's blind? Like, okay, let's say that it uses like sonar. You know, like a bat. Like, okay, well then shouldn't it be able to tell where Jaden Smith is anyway? Like,
Yeah, that's
the
a good
creatures, they don't make any sense whatsoever.
yeah, they didn't think that through at all.
point. Again, they establish these rules and then just kind of either don't flesh them out or they ignore them and forget about them. Because it's supposed to be one of those things where it's like, oh, this raises the stakes. But it doesn't really, because we don't reincorporate any of these things later. Like, Jaden Smith's jumping around all over the place after they say, oh yeah, it's got enhanced Earth's gravity.
I didn't even notice that, but yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, like,
didn't
they
do
don't
anything with
flesh anything out. If anything, I guess this movie just lacks polish on everything. It just could have been so much better.
Like, the only way that they can kill the Ursa is by a process called ghosting, where you shut off your emotions and you become boring Will Smith, and then they kill them with these like amorphous Darth Maul sabers.
Yeah.
You have spaceships. You don't have guns.
Yeah,
Okay, I can kind of swallow that they don't have any sort of gun, but like, you don't have any kind of projectile. You're not throwing anything. You have to go balls deep into a fight to fight these things.
Yeah, the
Really?
Avatar aliens were more advanced than they are.
Fucking
And-
Dances with Wolves are more
and also-
advanced than these guys.
It's weird. They have like these futuristic apartment high towers, but then Jaden sleeps in a hammock. I don't know if you noticed that.
It's quirky.
That was a note that I made. Was there's a lot of paper tents, like every other surface, every other manufactured surface in this. It's in the city shots. It's in the ship. It's in their house. It's like these weird paper tents.
Yeah, it's weird because did you notice like when the ship first got like hit by the asteroids and holes were poking through? One guy came over with like a sheet of paper and started taping it over a hole. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I guess FEMA controls the ship.
Just FEMA controls everything.
FEMA controlled this fucking movie. But
All right.
They don't
so-
have guns. They only have like fucking Darth Maul saber.
do you think that that's where all the hoarded toilet paper went, so they could like patch up the ship? This movie
God,
was
they're
ahead of
dumber
its
than I thought.
time. This movie's smart.
This movie is really smart, and we'll get into that. So, this movie starts with Katai Rage failing his
Sure.
his what is it? His Ranger exam.
His Ranger Corps exam.
Yeah, that.
Like even though he excelled and was the top of his class, they're like, "You're a little
not ready."
bitch."
Yeah, they called him a pussy. They're like, yeah, you're a fucking Melvin.
He's like, "No, listen, my dad's coming home today. I want him to be proud of me." And he's like, "Yeah, tell him I said what's up or whatever."
Dad's gonna
Get the
beat
fuck
my
out of my
ass
tent.
if I don't pass the sprints.
He's like, "Yeah." Shows him the door.
Well, and they say that, like, they failed him because in the field he collapses, and don't get me wrong, he definitely does collapse, but it's like, he's clearly done some extensive training. I can't just skydive off the top of my head. Like, I don't know how to do that, but
which
he
is
clearly
crazy.
does.
Like, there needs to be some kind of gray area because through the entire movie, he looks like he's about to cry. Like, no matter what scene it is. And
Yeah.
he's
I
supposed to
wonder
be
if
like the
that's a
top
choice.
of his class, like almost a badass, but
Yeah,
Is that a choice, or is Jaden, that's just his face?
Yeah, I don't think he shows like any face besides that like kind of worried look, you know, where his eyebrows go down a little bit. Like his face is like that for the entire movie.
His jaw is constantly quivering.
Like I mean, like yeah, like even at the end when like he succeeded and he gets what he wants, he gets like his dad's approval and shit. Like he's still got that same look on his face. Like this, it's hard to see any change.
He's kind of constipated, but he's also really sad.
I get
Just
that.
wants to make his dad proud, man. His dad is Cypher Rage. If your dad was Cypher Rage, you'd be fucking up a lot too.
I guess that's true.
That's a lot of pressure.
That's a name to live up to. Cypher Rage.
I'm gonna name my son Cypher.
So we're going. Hang on, I'll edit this part out.
Wow, how professional.
So basically, we get some family drama where we get to see the Rage family at the dinner table, which is riveting. And, Jaden seems a little scared of his dad. I wonder if it's like a parable to real life. Like, I became a huge Hollywood actor, you can too. Let me tell you, I'm glad that Jaden has, like, a pretty good music career, because he would have fucking crashed and burned if he was really sticking to the actor thing.
If this wasn't a nail in the coffin, Karate Kid was.
I like Karate Kid way more than this.
Well, I think if his music career didn't take off, he could have been a great poet.
Are you making allusions to his Twitter?
His Twitter? Not yeah.
How can Earth be real if our eyes aren't real?
How can fear be real?
It's not real.
Fear is an illusion.
Fear is a choice.
Honestly,
how can danger be real if fear is not real?
Honestly, like that monologue about like the fear thing could have been cool if he wasn't switching to like an English and Southern accent halfway through it every 5 seconds.
There are some good moments, or at least like moments with potential in this movie. Like,
but every time there is one, something stupid happens and ruins it.
Yeah, like jumping ahead a little bit, like the scene I was talking about earlier, where they see that guy who lost his leg, and he salutes Mr. Rage. I think that could
Sir Rage.
I think that could be a good scene. Like, I liked what they were going for there. But the green screen took me out of it, and also just like Will and Jaden fucked it up.
He could have also just been standing there with the other two dudes on crutches. Because these are like the most badass space marines ever. But it's like, oh, lift me up so I can hug them.
Yeah, but they had to reincorporate it and bring it full circle at the end of the movie when Will Smith gets saved.
Yeah,
I guess that's true. Everything's a precursor. You know what? This movie's too smart for us. That's what it is. That's what it is.
It is, man. They thought of everything. So yeah, they decide that they're gonna go somewhere. I don't know where they're going.
Earth.
But they're going by Earth.
No, Earth's a quarantine planet.
They're making their journey. They're making their
this
journey
movie
to
really did.
Iphitos, but I don't know if they describe why they're going. It's just
Yeah,
like at the end of that family scene when his wife's like, "Hey, don't be a dick." Will Smith goes and is like, "Hey, you're coming to me with Iphitos. I'm not gonna tell you why though."
He's just
Dude,
like,
props for remembering the name.
I did not. I wrote it down.
Didn't. Oh.
I didn't even remember them saying it. So yeah, they get on the ship and go, and Will Smith, like Jaden's just poking his head around,
About to cry.
yes, and Will Smith is like, he senses something, and he gets up and he takes off his ring, and he like touches it to the wall of the ship, and then later on he's like, I sensed graviton vibrations. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
So stupid.
Well, it's because he lacks
Graviton
fear.
vibrations? What the fuck?
Why is he the only person that can do that?
Yeah,
He
like
can do something that creature should be able to do, but
Like-
can't.
I don't know,
He
that
does
was
sense vibrations.
that's the most like pseudoscience bullshit that I hate in movies. Like they didn't even try; they just picked like sciencey sounding words. And they were like, "Yeah,
it's
sure.
technobabble.
Whatever." Yeah, technobabble.
If they
yeah.
can't describe something, technobabble, and we'll all just guess through it together.
I mean, like, Yeah, it seems like being able to detect graviton vibrations would actually be a pretty useful skill to have. Especially for these two pilots. And I don't think Will Smith is a pilot, but he's smart, I guess. So
but he
he's
caught this
Supreme
ship.
Commander or whatever.
He caught
his
this deadly force of nature that they obviously should have known about. Like,
yeah, they're like, that's 1 in a million, and it happens like 40 seconds.
That's
later.
why he's the captain of the Skyjackers.
I at
Don't call
least
him Cypher
appreciate
Rage for
that they're
nothing.
only called the Rangers. They're not called the Skyjackers.
Or, Space Force.
Oh. Yeah, this movie really was ahead of its time. Earth's a quarantine planet. We have a Space Ranger force.
That's the Space Force Rangers to you and me.
Oh, yeah. True.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so they go into this asteroid field, I guess. And
For some reason, he could sense the asteroids, even though the ship
Yeah.
computer couldn't. He touches
Yeah.
the wall and feels them
just
in
like-
space.
and he wakes up from that. Like, everybody else on the ship is just...
wait,
They don't-
and I also just thought of something like,
They're not
how
woke.
the fuck do you sense vibrations in space? Like, there's no medium for them to travel through.
I wouldn't even question it because this movie's perfect. It's got the science there.
Oh, and like right before that, they established that they've got one of these Ursas in the ship, but it's in this egg thing that's held down like Attack on Titan.
The cage, like the egg thing that it's stuck in, is like, it looks way too small for it. Like, because we don't actually see the Ursa until way later in the movie, but it's like, it's way too big to fit in there. How the fuck did they fit it in
This
there?
little baby Ursa that's guarded by Tormund
Maybe
from
it's
Game
like
of Thrones.
an egg, like a larva form, and then it grows into the size of a jeep, like it later does.
I don't know, man.
But yeah, and then this guy, this also like Scottish, New Zealand, Southern accent guy, starts fucking with Jaden. He's like, "Hey, you should go over there, see what happens."
scared? You should walk up and see what happens if you touch the Ursa.
Adrenaline is getting into your veins.
Well, it makes sense that he has an accent at least, because that's I believe that's Tormund from Game of Thrones. He doesn't have his mastodon hair and beard, but I'm pretty sure that's him.
I thought he
Yeah,
looked
I-
familiar.
I probably should have looked that up before I said that, but I'm pretty sure
I'm-
that's who it is.
Unless I'm confusing him with someone else, I read that he cut his hair for the role in this movie, and then they cut out, as you can tell, they cut out like 90% of his scenes.
I wish, after seeing him, I wish he was the focus of the whole movie.
I wish almost anyone else was the focus of the movie.
That's true.
Wes, you're right. That guy is Tormund in Game of Thrones.
Oh, called it.
I thought he looked familiar. I thought that he was the what's his name from Dodgeball, but
Ben Stiller.
yeah. I wish
shit.
that this force
Wow,
was
that-
called the Purple Cobras.
If you can dodge an Ursa, you can dodge a ball.
So, yeah, they crash land on Earth
Earth.
somehow. And, okay, so here's one thing. Because once we crash land onto Earth, then we get the tutorial of this game, where Jaden's got these little jelly donuts that he's supposed to inhale, and they coat the lining of your lungs so you can absorb more oxygen. Okay, it's a movie.
Sure.
But
He hits
I-
his vape pen, and then he's good on Earth for a little bit.
I wish he just had a little vape pen. But the thing is, they have these wireless gas masks, or like these cordless gas masks. He just puts it on and he can breathe. Why not just have that all the time?
This is what I'm talking about when I say that, like, it's a lot of like the logistics that take me out of this movie, like shit like that. It's like, can this device not help you? Why would they design this device to do this? Like yeah, when he wakes up from the crash, there's this door that's like it's continuously trying to close, but it keeps opening back up because there's a body in the way.
But it's a form-fitting door.
Yeah, it seals around the body perfectly. So I'm like, what is the point of making it do that if it won't stay closed anyway? Like, seems like just a waste of resources and time to design it like that. It makes no sense. And then I also loved when Jaden is like, oh man, I need to get this door to close, and he doesn't even check to see if this body is like alive. He doesn't check to see if he's breathing or if his heart is beating. He just pushes him out of the ship.
And he just looks like he's like, ew.
Yeah. Like, he does not check to see if he's alive at all. He's just like, meh.
And so, Cypher Rage, big bad Cypher Rage, has a broken... He is very hurt in the crash because Jaden was the only person wearing a seatbelt for this whole thing.
The only person.
Like, because right before the ship blows up, or like, there's a huge explosion in the hull, or like a breach in the hull, and then Cypher gets sucked out, and it's so funny. When he's like ragdolling down the hall, I was losing my shit.
It's great.
And that's 20 minutes in, and that's the like, how did we get here moment.
Yep.
Yeah. For an hour 40, this movie drags ass.
Like,
Kinda
I
like
looked
Jaden
at it,
does
and I was
the whole
like, I'm
time.
20 minutes in? I didn't think I was going to be able to go further. But
I'm not going to lie to you. I think it picks up a lot more once they crash land. Like,
Yes, it does.
that is true, yes.
Like, I think the first 30 minutes or so are, like, definitely the slowest part. And it gets a lot more... The pace becomes a lot faster after
Until it starts interjecting, like, flashback scenes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my
And
God.
and young Jaden looks like Zero from Holes. For some reason.
He's got like a massive fro. I was like, man, why can't we have this version of him? Instead, they've got like alt-right haircuts.
It's like Little Richard. He's got these curly cues.
So they crash land, and they're assessing the situation. And I know this has been picked apart a lot, but I just gotta say, like, Will Smith explains that everything on this planet has evolved to kill humans. What the fuck with that? Like,
Yeah, we left 1,000 years ago.
yeah, like, only 1,000 years. Also, why would they evolve to kill humans if the humans aren't there?
Like, it's almost like they're trying to make some kind of exposition of why they had to evacuate Earth, but then just when you think they're going to go into it even a little bit, they just like, no, whatever, they just mention something else in passing that just makes everything not make any fucking sense.
Yeah, they go right into the Ursa stuff.
And it's also that, like, I don't know, I've just always thought it was weird, like, a weird phrase, like, they evolved to kill humans. And I'm like, that's not really
that like
saying
3
much.
or 4 times throughout the whole movie. They just keep saying that too.
Well, and to say that something evolved to kill humans, like, isn't really saying much. Like, that could mean they just, like, run into us really, really hard, you know? Like,
Yeah, 'cause,
It's
like,
evolved to kill anything.
Yeah,
Most
like,
they're
we're-
bigger.
we're-
They're just
most
normal
things
animals, but they're
already-
bigger.
Yeah,
most
like,
things
we're-
already can kill humans.
yeah, we're just fragile naturally. Like, we're vulnerable to a lot of things. So it's like, it's not really saying much that they evolved to kill us. It's like, okay, a lot of shit can. Like,
It's like
not
great.
really-
Everything is bigger and it looks a little bit meaner. Like that creature that he fights in the bird nest. It's like that's a tiger.
yeah.
There's not much to it. Like it's CGI and it looks a little bit like flashier, but it's a fucking tiger. Like
I think
grow up.
I think the CGI looks worse in that scene maybe than anything else.
Yeah.
Except for the first thing that really stood out to me that's looking super bad is when he gets to the top of the mountain and sees that herd of buffalo. That looked fucking awful.
That was
Toy
rough.
Story 1 looked better. It was fucking atrocious.
It did look pretty terrible.
And
Or like
then-
when he's looking off the cliff when he's about to do like the swan dive. I was like, this looks pretty rough.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
And then he can just fly around in a fucking wingsuit and never uses it again.
So, before that, yeah, about his suit, this movie has, like, a sense of humor at times.
It's got like
And
3 jokes.
And like, it's kind of weird, like, because I don't know if some of them are, like, intentionally funny or not. Like when Katai's suit first changes color, he's like, my suit's turned black. I kind of like it, but I think it's bad. Like, it's such a fucking weird thing to say, but it's like, I guess maybe a teenager would say that.
Yeah,
Everyone
that's
in
true.
the theater was like, okay.
And I also want to know,
Already fucking hard.
why does his suit change color? Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, I don't think they go into that really. Because it's
Another-
like it's made of
another
smart
thing,
fabric.
They're like, oh, this happens, and then they don't fucking explain it.
Well,
you
and
get
I
Like-
noticed, like, when everything was freezing around him, his suit changed from black to white.
And it clearly didn't help at all. Like, you would think it would
Well,
be like
like-
some kind of ice resistance, but no.
Well, and you would think that in a cold environment it would change to black because black would absorb more heat,
No, you're wrong.
and white would reflect more of it.
kidding.
So, like, the fuck with that.
That would make sense. but
Like, and that kind of took me out of the movie too, because it's like he's constantly like opening up his nav and changing his skin.
yeah, he had to get the various suit before he could find like the geothermal fucking hotspots. By the way,
Yeah.
where like every X amount of kilometers,
They don't explain
the entire
that.
planet freezes over. It's full of vegetation, full of greenery and vegetation, and it somehow freezes over within the course of a night in 1,000 years. Get the fuck
Yeah,
out!
they never go into that with these drastic weather changes. So you can't breathe the atmosphere. You could almost believe that, I guess. But then it's 1,000 years later, and just suddenly the entire world freezes over every night, and then it's just normal again in the morning. What?
Like
It would've-
the air thing
it-
makes sense in a stupid way because like that's how it was when dinosaurs were around. Is that like there was much larger vegetation, there was a lot more vegetation, so there's a lot more oxygen being given off.
That was also hundreds of millions of years ago.
Yeah, not 1,000
Yeah, like-
years. Like,
Yeah, this all would have made a lot more sense if they just increased the number. Like instead of 1,000 years ago, it was at least 10,000 years, or like say 1,000,000. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't know. I guess 1,000 just sounded cool.
a billion years ago.
A
They
billion
should've
dillion.
said. That could have been one of the 4 jokes.
So okay, once they establish that Cypher's legs are broken, and Jaden Smith goes to, have the Fallout 3 shot of leaving the vault and seeing the wasteland, and you get all these buffalo, and I don't think they're evolved to kill humans, but okay. The birds overhead are not
Everything
evolved
is.
to kill humans, but whatever, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And he immediately starts fucking up. Oh, and Cypher's able to watch him the entire time because he's got like
Yeah.
a camera on his backpack, and so he's able to monitor his vitals and keep track of everything.
He's
He has-
Oracle
he has
from the
a
Arkham
camera-
games.
He has a camera on his backpack, and he also has like these drones. And like there will be times where like you see that he must be watching him through these drones, but like there is no drone to be seen. When you're seeing things from Katai's perspective, I guess they just forgot to put the drone in the shot.
I guess so, because at the beginning, when he first goes out, he launches like literally 100 of them.
Yeah.
And they go all over the fucking place. And they never show any of them ever again. And I guess these drones, like, he can't even control them to, like, tackle into shit, like when he's fucking fighting a giant jaguar or a condor. The drones
they're
can't
like
do anything.
purely surveillance.
Yeah, like why not just have one of those just kind of float around him, and that can be like, I mean, if if Will Smith is playing a video game, that could be like his camera control. That could be what's
his
his name,
navy.
Lakitu from Mario 64.
Yeah, exactly.
just
And
follows
that's basically
Jaden
what
around.
it is anyway.
But instead, he relies on the webcam that's on Jaden's back, and then has the drones do fuck all because we're looking for the Ursa. Okay, even though the Ursa's like 30 miles away, but whatever, fine. And so we get how important it is for the breathing donuts to
His CBD.
his CBD donuts. Which, I mean, sure, okay, again, we've got more video game logic here, but it works. It's whatever to me. And pretty early on, he gets this slug, or like it looks like a leech on his hand, and this was the funniest scene of the movie, where Will Smith's just like, take your thing, take your stim pack, inject it into your heart, and he's like, I can't feel my hands. And then he falls like with his full weight onto this thing to go into his heart. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty awkward, and I'm sure not for the reasons they intended.
Yeah.
And
It
also
was
his
just
face
so
just
weird.
like his eyes are just like immediately swollen shut. Like in one shot you see his face and he looks normal, and then you see the slug, and then it cuts back to him and his face is like almost swollen shut.
Yeah, it looks like he got a bee sting, like, but everywhere.
It's really weird.
It's amazing. I love that scene. Like,
Yeah,
I have
and
to
then-
say, this at least really unintentionally funny, where Jupiter Ascending was just annoying to me, but this is fucking
Agreed.
hysterical.
Yeah, 100%
Agreed.
agreed.
I can't remember if it's before or after that. I think it's before, but he runs into like this lone monkey.
Oh,
And,
yeah, that was the
and his
dumbest thing
dad
ever.
tells him to just like be cool, and he's like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna throw a rock at this monkey, And a few weird things happen there. Like, okay, A, why would you not listen to Cypher Rage? Okay, this man's name is Cypher Rage, and he's like the wisest and most powerful man in your entire armed forces, and you're just gonna ignore him? Like, the fuck's wrong with you? And he's also like
Jedi Master.
Yeah, he's also like your guide on this like life or death trip. Like, why the fuck would you not listen to him and directly disobey him?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a rock. I'm gonna be a dick.
I also noticed that like, so he throws the rock, and Cypher can like, he's got like a red dot on his map to like signal to like represent this lone monkey, and he's got a blue dot to represent Katai. And so Katai throws a rock at the monkey, and then like this monkey's like, "You guys seeing this shit?" And all of his monkey friends show up, and then all of a sudden like all these red dots pop up on the map, and I'm like, why did they not like? They just didn't want to be seen yet,
like any of the 200 drones following Jaden around wouldn't have seen any of them.
Yeah, like this drone knew that one monkey was there, but it couldn't tell that these other ones were just above like the 10-foot large hill.
Yeah, that was really weird to me because it's not like he is stupid. He's the fucking top of his class. Even if he freezes like in battle or in the field or whatever, is he really just going to be like, "Oh, look at this fucking thing I've never seen before. I'm going to toss a rock at its face." It has like 10-inch fangs, but you know what? I'll be okay.
So
dude, I'm good at softball.
So he gets chased by these monkeys, and they do that really annoying thing where like they're clearly much faster than him, but every time it cuts to the next shot, like he's somehow just another 50 feet ahead of them. It's really fucking weird.
It's the Michael Myers paradox.
And by the end of the chase, he like, or maybe it's after he gets poisoned by the slug. He crushes his little oxygen donuts, and Cypher asks him like, how many do you have left? And he's like, he has 2, and he says 4. And again, I'm just like, why would you fucking lie to him? Like, that is crucial. Like, you need those things to breathe.
Well, it's like, what's he gonna do? I'm guessing that he's scared because he's a kid. He's supposed to be scared of getting scolded, but again, like, what's he gonna do? Ground you? He better just go on ahead. And after that, this is what's even more baffling. So Will Smith has like a little nav system that maps out how many breathing vials it would take to get to the tail end of the ship, which again, I guess this is solved if you just bring that little clear gas mask from earlier. Yeah. But it's like, oh, it's going to take 3 point whatever vials to get down normally, and it's going to take two and some change if you do a sky jump. It even says sky jump. And then Will Smith's just like, nah, come back with me to die.
Yeah.
Like, that's their only other option. It's like, why not continue? Why be such a dick about it?
And yeah, I don't get why he didn't even want to consider the sky jump. Like, was that not the plan in the first place? And also, like, that would definitely be faster than just like scaling down the side of this cliff. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't just do that in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, if you severed an artery in your leg, you need to kind of be. I know that Will Smith constructs a shunt so he can like mitigate the blood loss a little bit, but you need. By the end of this, he's already baked out from blood loss and the medication that he's taking anyway. Like, you really wanted Jaden to take an extra 2 days to scale this mountain?
I like that too, by the way. When he took those drugs, it says on top in a hologram, "This will fuck you up."
He's like,
extreme drowsiness. It's like, oh, that's gonna be good. This isn't a plot device.
It's also like, is he on these painkillers already? Like, that would explain this performance.
He's just got like a little.
Just normal.
He's got a flask of lean that he carries around. But so they have a little spat,
and he actually cries instead of looking like he's about to cry.
Yeah,
and again, I think this is another scene that it's like, I like what they were going for, but obviously it didn't work out.
It's embarrassing. Jaden's bad in this.
Yeah, another thing that could have been good because he's rebelling. He's like, no, I can do it, Dan. I hate you.
Yeah, and then he starts like, it turns into, it starts with why don't you think I can do this? And turns into, why weren't you there when my sister died? And I'm like, I like what they were going for there, and I think that could have been good. But yeah, like, Jaden is still making that same face even when he's, like, screaming at the top of his lungs, and it's just, it's fucking weird.
So, yeah, he's got the same face the entire time where he's looking like, or he is crying, but he's like, I'm not a coward, you're a coward! And then, oh, the entire reason being that he's calling his dad a coward is because you're never there, you're too busy saving the human race and being a Jedi Master, so you can't fucking play Call of Duty with me. You fucking dick. And they keep making these little allusions to the fact that his older sister Senshi Rage was also mulched by an Ursa, and she put Jaden under this little biodome thing. I guess where he can't smell his fear, even though he's shitting his pants.
It really is like a biodome. Like, I think it has, like, grass in it for some reason. I'm like, what is this thing for? Like, what does it do? Why do they have it? And yeah, also, her getting mauled by the Ursa in the flashback is just hilarious. Like,
that was really good.
Like, the way, there's something about the way it, like, carries her body around. It just looks so bad. It's great.
Yeah, like, it yeets her against the wall and then she just ragdolls down. Like, anything where somebody is falling or being thrown around in this movie is just hysterical. Like, it's gold to watch.
Yeah.
Just like the next skydiving scene when he skyjacks for the first time.
So speaking of which, he starts jacking it down the sky, and he gets almost immediately this giant bird starts chasing him
for no reason aside from it evolved to kill humans, I guess.
Yeah,
that's why humans haven't been there for 1,000 years, but it can kill the fuck out of them. But yeah, it just jacks him right out of the sky. As he's, like, doing all this pro shit, like, weaving in between mountains.
He's doing barrel rolls.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And I could just imagine a tutorial being there for, like, the wingsuit. But yeah, the Condor attacks him.
Press square to descend, press X to ascend.
The Condor attacks him, and then he cries and passes out. And then he wakes up in the nest. And, like, all these baby birds. And then, just a mountain jaguar comes out of nowhere
and starts eating the babies. He's like, leave them alone.
Yeah. So another thing is, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I can roll with him wanting to defend these little baby birds, but, like, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. It's like, dude,
it's almost like
everything's
it's a
trying to
plot
kill
device.
you. Like, come on. Yeah, but like, did this bird just build this nest? Because, like, oh, it's really convenient that these tiger creatures attack the nest right when Katai wakes up. I'm like, how long has this nest been here? Like, has this never happened before? Like, why did you build your nest that close to the ground? Like, right next to all the trees where these tigers could easily climb up and get to you. Like, that's...
You don't know their lives, Harlan? You don't know who they killed?
It's natural selection.
Natural selection, dude. And then
these birds aren't long for the world.
And then he does have potentially what could be one of the coolest shots in the movies, but it makes no fucking sense whatsoever. He, like, 100%ed his QuickTime event and just fucking dodge rolled and slammed this tiger into, like, a trap door, basically, in the nest. He uses his Will Smith inherited senses or whatever to be like, oh, the ground's weak here, and then just, like, smacks him on the head. Then the jaguar or whatever the fuck it is just tumbles through.
Like, how much did that jaguar weigh for him to be able to do that? Like, I guess the gravity is heavier. They fucking...
For everyone else.
In this one instance, it's more relevant, I guess.
Yeah, they thought of it.
Even though the tiger wasn't falling through the nest beforehand.
And most people probably didn't even remember that factoid.
I'll give him a pass. Way to go, Will Smith and M. Night. You did it.
Yeah.
You did it.
10 out of 10 gravitons.
God, I love gravitons.
So, he leaves after literally all of the baby birds get killed. And then...
He tried, though.
He floats down the river.
Yep, he reaches the hog hole.
And falls asleep.
Yep, hallucinates his sister, and they try to. What are they going for with Moby Dick in this movie? Like,
Oh yeah, that's one thing that kept coming back up. I could not figure that out. Like,
yeah,
what
they try to
significance did it
There's
have?
supposed to be some kind of theme that involves Moby Dick, and I don't know what they're going for. Like, do you guys know? I don't get
I think
it.
the logic of it is that they're kind of obsessed with the Ursa, and the Ursa's like the main object of ire, kind of like the whale was in Moby Dick. But I mean, it's stupid.
Well,
It
not
seems
just
very,
that, they
very
kept bringing
shallow.
it back up like it was like a family heirloom or something. Like, oh, look at this book. It's like, oh, by the way, he was reading this book, and it just like keeps coming back up for no
and
reason.
he starts quoting it to his hallucination sister like Bible verses, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, like, does Moby Dick really mean that much to you guys? Like, I don't know. They were clearly meaning for it to sound like super intellectual and like deep and meaningful, and it's like, no.
Yeah,
We're
I read
referencing
Moby
classic
Dick.
literature, so this is smart.
Yeah, I read Moby Dick in 6th grade as well.
Ain't that great?
Congratulations.
He wakes up from his nap, floating down the river, and the area is about to freeze over, and he wanders off, and then he just like falls over, and he's ready to die. That's when his suit turns white, like I mentioned earlier, and I don't know why. Like, I don't get what the point of his suit changing colors is. And then
I guess in case he didn't feel cold because he turned off his cold sensor too. He could turn his fear off.
That's a sweet perk.
I'm gonna turn off my nervous system, which is actually really helpful. So is fear, by the way, but don't worry about it. This movie sees fear as a weakness.
Yeah.
Danger is not fear, Justin.
Fear is not real. It's an extrapolation of things that are not in the present right now. It's like,
Oh yeah, should we? I guess let's
Sure.
rewind. I think it was when he first was getting ready to fight the monkeys. When Cypher Rage gives the most bullshit lines I've ever heard. He's like,
so amazing.
He's like, root yourself in this present moment. I'm like, okay. And he's like, recognize your power. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
like
sure.
Miyagi now.
And then he says, this will be the moment of your creation. Like, fuck off. Like, you know what that is?
Harlan,
That is
it's art.
no.
does that
You know what
mean?
that is? That line is such a bullshit
He's
trailer bait.
creating himself. All right.
No, dude. Like that
creating
line.
himself.
That line is there
He's
just
evolving.
to be put. That line is there just to be put in the trailer. That's it.
Bullshit.
This will be your
It's
creation.
because he had a big brain moment. Like after he goes out of the nest, after being fucking bodied by a liger, he goes into this cave, and it's like he's like formulating a plan because like his oh yeah, I don't think we mentioned this. His nav thing that he talks to his dad with just got destroyed,
His
Oh,
Pip
yeah.
Boy.
and he can't talk to him anymore. He has Pip Boy, and he's in there, and he actually calls where he is the hog hole. And I got a good chuckle out of that. It was written in like cave paintings, so that'll be there forever. By the way, in the year 3000,
And you just got like a straight line from
a cave, a Kennesaw Mountain's gonna say hog hole.
I like that he draws like a little map on or like a chart of
Yeah,
where
like,
he
did
is
that-
on the wall,
did
but
that
it's
really
just like
help?
a line with dots. Like I was at here, then I was at here, and I haven't been to this place yet. I don't know how far I am, but fuck it. I'm
Yeah.
guessing it's going to be this distance. Like,
Then it has
Yeah, okay,
epic music. He leaves the cave and dies in 5 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. But
I don't think that map was to scale.
yeah, but yeah. Then it starts freezing, and then like when he's about to die, guess what? The condor comes back
oh,
for
Okay,
some
so-
fucking reason.
So also know that this is yet another scene that like I like what they were going for. Like he protected the bird, or he tried to protect the baby condors, and this bird is like, oh man, I'm indebted to you even though you failed and my children are dead. You tried to save them. Oh, here, let me save you from the cold. And like, even if I think it's weird that he defended the birds in the first place, like I like what they were going for there, but it's awkward. Like, it's just awkward.
if they had established Katai with any kind of character, like
Yeah.
at all, that wasn't just disappointment to his dad. He wasn't just Brony the character to his dad. But yeah, we don't get that, so it doesn't make any sense, and it comes out of left field. Like, yeah, why does he give a shit about these persons? I guess because they're babies, and he's supposed to be the audience self-insert, because most audience members, myself included, would be total pussies in this world too. So, whatever. But then he gets to the tail, and the entire reason that he's supposed to get to the tail is because he's trying to reach an emergency beacon, because their beacon got fucked, and so, yeah, that exists. And he realizes that the Ursa's gotten out, and he finds his beacon, but he can't talk to his dad. His dad, or he can talk to his dad can't talk to him, so he's got to use the teachings of his father. Oh, and they also incorporate take a knee every 5 minutes. It's like, take a knee and center yourself.
It's like a save point.
I like, the general idea of how, they're showing him, going back to the things that his dad taught him. I think that's generally, and as like a vague concept, I think that's good. But yeah, it's just annoying the way that they go back to it in this specific execution. Also, like you mentioned, he lost contact with his dad. And his dad leaves the worst fucking message to his wife. It's he fucking starts recording and he says, he pauses for like 10 seconds and he goes, "I have lost contact with our son."
Not that we got in a crash. It was just, I lost contact with them.
Yeah, he says
cell service.
He says, "I have lost contact with our son." He waits for like 5 seconds, and you think he's gonna say more, and then he just says "end message," and it's like, that's fucking it. Like
his comedic timing is impeccable.
You think both you and your son are gonna die, and you want that to be all that you leave the mother of your child with? Like, what the fuck?
Yo, what up, honey? A little bitch dead.
I think
so.
That would have been better.
Is he leaving her like an actual? So is this just an archive of? Like that he's leaving with the ship, or is he actually transmitting this? In which case, why not just fucking call somebody?
Well, I guess it was just like an audio log for them to find, but like he could have said anything else.
Yeah.
Yep, son's missing. They get there, it's like, oh, well, he's obviously dead. I guess son's dead too.
I mean, you could be like, oh, if you want to send a search party, he went off that way. Go look in that general direction.
You can find the 30 strewn pieces of Jaden like flung around. It's great. But
so after that,
he finds more donuts. He finds more air donuts.
Hell yeah.
More of his CBD cartridges. And then I mean, the rest of it's just so predictable. You can see the shit coming at the beginning of the movie. He finds the Ursa. The Ursa's about to kill him, and then he ghosts.
Yeah, it's super. It's exactly what you'd expect. It's the all is lost moment. Whoops. He's about to die. And he lays down, has a flashback to his sister dying, and then he's like, ready to kick some ass, and that he does, and that what more is there to say about that? Like, it doesn't look good. The Ursa looks like ass, and he like rides it at the end. He like stabs it in the neck, and he rides it almost off the mountain, and it's like sliding towards the edge. And I'm like, do you think maybe you should get off? Like, this thing is about to fall off of the top of this mountain. Get off of it. It's already dead. Like.
No, but he ghosted, man, so that he controlled his fear.
Yeah, he's not afraid of falling off a mountain.
Even though now he's definitely a Vulcan. And he doesn't feel emotion. He's going to be a boring fuck like Will Smith was.
Yeah, but for some reason, his entire family still loves him, even though he's an emotionless robot.
Like, do they fuck? Will Smith and his wife? It has like 2 lines.
I would have to assume so.
At least twice.
Do you think like she's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna come," and he goes, "Denied. Sit down." Yeah, he gets back. Like, yeah, after that, after he ghosts and reaches God status, he's immediately back, and then we get the reincorporated "stand me up" or "sit me up" thing.
Yeah, and he gets a salute from his dad. And I think that's the end of the movie. And yeah, I thought it was really weird that they didn't show them like being rescued. I mean, they show like Cypher being like carried away by some dudes, but like they don't show. I think it could be a good moment to like show the rescue ship landing on Earth and them being like, oh fuck yeah, we did it, hell yeah, but it doesn't happen. It's weirdly just absent.
That would have been more CG to pay for if they were just going to show him on the Earth.
Yeah, we would have had more Star Trek to rip off.
Yeah.
That's the whole end of the movie. Oh, and their planet's called Nova Prime, by the way. That's cute.
Yep.
That's cute. I thought that was the name of their like army for some reason.
No, it's the Ranger Corps.
Shit, my bad. Well, I'm mixing it up with like Marvel's Nova Corps. So, I don't know what else there is to say about this movie. It's not good.
That's one thing you could say.
I think I liked it the most out of the three of us. Like I definitely don't hate this movie, but it's not good.
I'd give it a 3.
It's bad. It's bad. I'd say like 3.5.
I almost want to give it less because it had potential that was just wasted.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost be willing to give it a 4, but we're gonna go for a 3. A solid 3.
Yeah, 3.5 for me.
But this begs the question: where should the F-bomb go?
I have an answer for this. Like, I had a premeditated answer.
Let's
It was when Jaden is screaming at the top of that cliff before he does the sky jump. And he's like, I'm not a coward, you're a coward! At which he said, you're a fucking coward! And then yeets himself off the cliff.
That would have been amazing potential for that, for sure. I guess I would have put it like just as more of the comedic relief whenever he wakes up from being injected by that slug on his hand or whatever. After all that's over, he's like, that sucked. You should be like, that fucking sucked.
That would have been a good one.
And then his dad's like, yeah. That's true.
I would like to insert an F-bomb in Cypher's bullshit creation line. This will be your fucking creation, just to make it a little bit more tolerable in its absurdity. All right, so I think that's it for After Earth. You guys have anything else to say about it?
Yeah. Why didn't the Condor just fly him to the ship tail?
Yeah, like they were friends by the end of the movie. Why couldn't they just work together?
Why wasn't the end like He-Man, where he could just call upon his animal friends he made along the way?
Or like Lord of the Rings, why didn't he just fly the beacon into Mordor?
And one final thought. It's totally possible that this is a sequel to The Happening.
You think so?
Yes.
your
Everything's
math.
evolved to kill humans, right? Why would
Right.
the Earth have such a vendetta?
Though I did notice a lot of plants on the Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's M. Night cannibalizing himself and cannibalizing his own bad ideas.
I think this is the start of the M. Night universe. And we have a lot to look forward to.
The MNCU.
This was like the end of the anti-trilogy of M. Night movies, the ones that were like the most truly horrible, because it was The Happening, Last Airbender, and then this.
Yeah.
And all three of those, I think, are fairly atrocious in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Happening is probably the worst out of those three, but it's also the most fun to watch. So.
I'd give it to Last Airbender, because I had a really good time watching The Happening with you a couple weeks ago. I think that's a very actually enjoyable movie, of course for the wrong reasons. It's a fun time.
Oh, it's
Good
a
or
blast.
bad?
It's a
I
roller
think
coaster.
That's his most
Yeah.
entertaining movie, start to finish, and I hate to say that.
No, I totally agree. So yeah, that was After Earth. What are we doing next week, guys?
We are doing Snake Eyes, starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh shit!
Fuck yes.
All right, thanks for listening, y'all, and you can catch us next week for Snake Eyes.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Wash your hands.